Okay, welcome to HSP 112 Setting Standards. Well, this is our facilities management class, and I'll be talking about setting standards today. All right, so let me go ahead and share my screen. All right, here. All right, so remember I have the slides and your notes. I'll be talking from the notes today. And then I'll talk about what is due next Sunday. All right. Okay, so today we're discussing setting standards. When we think about controlling costs, we have to think about setting standards, right? So what is a standard? When you think about the phrase setting standards, what are we doing? Standard is a model that's used for basis of judgment. Let's say someone's not performing on their job the way they normally do. What do we say? We say they're not performing up to the standard. So why do we want to set standards in hospitality? So setting standards in hospitality involves determining the expected amount of sales income that can be achieved from the utilization of resources, right? Standards should be measurable. Managers should not be asked to increase sales without determining if an increase in sales is possible and can actually happen. Give the manager a percentage sales increase that they can be measured against the previous year during the same month or quarter, same time period, right? 2 to 5%, any more than that may not be attainable. When employees are instructed in a hotel to give better guest service, how do we measure better guest service? Guest complaints decreased by 7%. That might be one way. If standards cannot be attained, then they should be reevaluated, right? We should not set standards too high. If we do, we cannot meet those standards. In food and beverage, managers will often raise prices, reduce portion size, or lower the quality of food to meet a standard. If standards are attained, the organization must determine if they can be improved. Even if we meet a standard we set for ourselves, there may still be room to improve. And there may still be ways we can improve procedures and reduce necessary costs. Employees should receive feedback for process to work. Okay. Let the employees know that they are doing a good job if the standard is met, or ways they can improve to meet an attainable standard. Relevancy of standards. Standards for one restaurant may be different than for another similar restaurant. Standards must be based on operational expenses and anticipated profit for the facility for which the standards are to be implemented. Right? Operations may differ in the following ways, thus their standards will be different. Facility may have been established long enough to own its own property, and thus rent is not an expenditure. Cost of labor can be different depending on location and the job market. Menus for two different restaurants could be the same, but the popularity of menu items could be completely different. In one area, a menu item with a higher gross profit margin could be the most popular, while an item priced near to cost could be a higher seller in another restaurant. Right? Of course, you prefer the first one. Food costs of seasonal items can be quite different in different geographic areas as well, depending on how you source the ingredients for those items and how far they need to travel. Thus, we base the standards on operational costs of our own facility, not the standards of other facilities. Small businesses will have less labor costs, while larger businesses will pay out a lot more in labor. Every business goal is to have lower percentage in cost, but not all businesses can achieve the same cost percentages, thus they need different standards. In the hospitality industry, food, beverages, and labor are considered prime costs. Food and beverage cost percentage are outlined here. Now we have a percentage compared to the standard, wherever our standard is. It is important to separate food from beverages. The cost percentage is often lower for beverages, than it is for food. A winery sells a bottle of wine for $20 to a wholesaler. The wholesaler markup will the wine 33%. When sold to retailers, around $27. Then the retailer will mark up the bottle 50% when selling to the general public, and the wine sells for $40. But the restaurant sells the same bottle, they will often mark up the wine bottle triple the wholesale, which it will cost you around $80 to purchase in the restaurant. Right, triple. So, from 27. Does anyone know how much their restaurateur or bar marks up their wine bottles? Probably triple or even more than that, right? So of the wholesaler. Then there's a food cost percentage slide. I can show you that here. So this is calculating food cost percentage, right? You see this here. So food cost equals, the cost of food divided by how much we sell it for. So if the cost of the food that we use to make the item is $7 and then what we charge is 21, then the food cost percentage would be 33%. If the beverage cost is $30 for us, and beverage sales, let's say a $30 wine bottle and beverage sales is 90, we charge 90 for that wine bottle, then it's 33%, right? But we make a lot more money with that wine bottle than we would that menu item. Yeah. All right. 33% that's pretty good for food. For alcohol, that's pretty standard. All right. Now we'll go back to where we were. Okay, establishing standardized recipes. Standardizing recipes will help you to keep your product consistent. Standardized recipes yield consistent quality and quantity. So like this many ounces of chicken in this dish, and this many ounces of vegetables in this, and a dinner roll and things like that. So you get the name of the recipe, the ingredients, the preparation procedures, the preparation method, and the portion size. All of that needs to be in your recipe. And if that's all in your recipe and you follow that, then you will have a standardized recipe, and you won't be producing, you won't be overproducing, you won't be over portioning. Standardized recipe will reduce waste from leftovers, right? We won't have as many leftovers. We're producing more food, right? More than the recipe asked for. So it produces exactly how much food you need, right? Establishing servable portion and cost. The book discusses actual cost versus usual portion. When you purchase an ingredient for a dish, you have to be able to estimate how much of that item is usable. So you look at things like broccoli, chicken, lettuce. According to USDA, 5% is lost in 1 pound of lettuce. If 2 pounds of a service portion of lettuce is needed, then 2 ounces of lettuce will be needed to be available. The amount of loss can vary throughout the year depending on the quality and the season of the product as well. We'll discuss this more in later chapters. Labor costs. Standardized recipes help reduce labor costs by allowing relatively unskilled labor in the back of the house to produce the menu items, right? Because you have these set recipes and which unskilled cooks can follow. Unskilled labor is easier to replace than skilled labor. And we know that turnover is a major problem in the hospitality industry, right? So though we may be able to decrease turnover in our business, the reality is you will have some turnover. Standardizing recipes may lessen the blow, right? May lessen the blow. So when we set standards for the production of food, we have to keep in mind the skills in the back of the house, how fast they can prepare the food in a safe, quality, and efficient manner. In back of the house, meaning the prep, the prep cooks, the cooks, the sous chef, the executive chef, all that. Speaking of quality, we need to take care to produce standards that do not significantly affect the quality and service of our product. If we develop standards only thinking about profit, our service and product may be of lesser quality than we intended. Setting an ideal number of food items on the menu. Placing too many items in the menu can lead to spoilage, waste, and theft. You want to balance the taste and selections to allow for profitable sales mix. Quality can suffer as well if you're not proficient in the production of some of the items on the menu, especially if they're not ordered and produced as much as some of the other items. Our labor might not be skilled enough to produce some of the items on the menu. We may not have the right equipment to produce the food products we wish to serve. Setting standards for labor. By determining the amount of labor it takes to create a food product or service, we can have a better idea how much to price the product or service, right? We need to have a labor standard for each product or service we provide. Okay. Have a labor. It might have to develop a time standard for the product or service if the product service takes a long time to produce. Time standards can help inform a customer the length of time they should expect before they receive a product. At some restaurants, they tell you that a certain item on the menu takes longer to prepare and give you the length of time you should expect to wait. How long is this menu item going to take? And this one takes longer than normal. This is going to take this long, while the rest of this can come out sooner. Setting standards for equipment and supplies. We should set standards as to which piece of equipment should be used for cooking and serving each item. If we work in banquets, planning the use of equipment is especially important in buffets. The use of chafers, what size, shape, how many tables we use, skirting, linen, decorations, all those things. We have to take care we have enough silverware, bowls, and glassware, right, for service. How many events do we have going on? Is there soup being served? Dessert? Will they need a spoon or fork for dessert? Some dishes may have a thin sauce, so you want a serving spoon with holes in it. Standards should be set when the equipment should be turned on or off. For instance, warmers may be needed to turn on when the staff arrives for their shift in the kitchen for food orders or on a buffet. All right. Equipment and supplies should be conveniently located for the customer. In hotels, appliances that are placed among the room and bathroom, since they are aesthetically pleasing and convenient to access, like the TV, the hair dryer, the fridge, the mini bar, the iron and ironing board. In casinos, you place the change machine in a place that provides easy access and the most traffic and the highest visibility. Standards should be set that supplies are not damaged or wasted. Right? For instance, if your glassware is chipped, you probably want to throw it away if you work at an establishment that provides excellent product and service. You want to take care not to throw away any silverware and bowls if you're dumping trash, which leads to unnecessary waste. If you use your own linens, you want to take care, use rags rather than linens to mop up stains. You may have heard the notion of industry standards. We can compare our operation to another similar operation to see if we are performing well. Action plan. After standards have been established, they must be implemented and routinely measured and evaluated. Here's a 5-step action plan we can use to do this. So in order to implement the standards, right? In order to be sure people follow the standards, managers have to lead by example. If managers cut corners, the standards will be compromised, and people will see that, and the standards will be compromised. Measurement of standards. This is the step in the action plan in which we measure performance to see if the standards are being met. We need to consistently measure performance to be sure the company is consistent in meeting set standards. Remember, in human resources, we discuss being proactive, anticipating problems before they occur. You want to have a similar mindset when you're measuring performance. When we measure the standard, we have to fully understand the standard and how to measure the standard. For instance, when we do beverage inventory at the bar, we have to know where all the liquor is stored and how to count partially used bottles, things like that. The best way to measure performance against the standard is to perform an audit. An audit is a measurement of different standards at the same time. So rooms audit in a hotel, how the rooms are cleaned. Is the room stocked with supplies, toiletry items, and clean linens? F&B audit might consist of proper storing and receiving of food items. For those of you that that take a class in ServSafe, or you have ServSafe, you learned about the proper storage of different food products. Provide feedback. Employees and managers should provide feedback about their performance against the standards with regular feedback. The importance of the standards is reinforced. Corrective action. So management should take corrective action if there's a significant gap between performance and the set standards. I mean, when we say the gap, the performance is lower than the set standard. Food and beverage and labor standards need to be monitored closely. You don't want to do over portioning. You don't want to have theft. All these things can increase food costs and decrease profit, right? With labor standards, people can maybe overschedule during slow times, so there may not be enough staff during peak hours. So your service is suffering, or the consistency of service may be suffering. So you're going to have less loyal patrons. That would also decrease so you want to make sure that you're scheduling properly. Improvement. If standards are met, management explores the possibility of raising the standards. Operating at maximum efficiency is the ultimate goal. So after a standard is upgraded, you need to determine if the change was attainable and can be sustained. Get feedback from the staff too, and if they have any suggestions on how to improve standards, or if there's anything that you can do as a manager to facilitate the attainment of standards. Okay.